Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Now, in the words of the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, quote, violence against women and girls is a human rights violation, public health pandemic, and a serious obstacle to sustainable development. It imposes large-scale costs on families, communities, and economies. The world cannot afford to pay this price, end quote. And no wonder the United Nations General Assembly set aside November the 25th of every year as a day to mark the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The day was meant to raise public awareness of violence against women and girls in all countries around the world and at all levels of society. Now, aside the observance of the International Day, countries are encouraged to adopt and implement strategies towards the elimination of all acts that constitute violence against women and girls, which include rape, workplace harassment, torture, wife battery, female mutilation, and child trafficking. Others include forced marriages, forced prostitution, human rights violations, and rising inequalities between men and women, and other harmful traditional practices that impede on the rights and freedom of women. The issues of inheritance for widows and orphans, among other issues. Now, what are governments, non-governmental organizations, faith-based organizations, and the traditional institutions doing to address these challenges? Do countries have the political will to deliver? Now, what can the UN do beyond a declaration of a day to mark the event? Now, these are some of the issues that we're raising tonight with a team of discussants. But first, let's get to see this report by Talatu Ezerike.
On the night of 14th April 2014 in the town of Chibok, Borno State, the world witnessed one of the most violent acts against females when over 200 schoolgirls were kidnapped by the terrorist group Boko Haram. The terrorists have not only enslaved many of the girls, but continue to cause devastation and mayhem, subjecting millions of women and children to torture, rape, and hunger.
With the recent release of at least 21 of those girls, in addition to some other victims that have been released that may not have attracted so much publicity, I think the government has done excellently well, because the average woman in Borno now enjoys security in terms of freedom of movement.
Beyond that fallout of the Boko Haram insurgency, indicate and yet glaring that women suffer domestic violence, workplace sexual harassment, forced child marriage and genital mutilation, thereby destroying livelihoods and causing untold anguish, unwanted pregnancies, and the risks of contracting HIV/AIDS. What is experienced in Nigeria is part of the worldwide record where 1 in every 3 women has experienced violence by an intimate partner, while as many as 38% of murder of women are committed by a male intimate partner.
The day is meant for special people like us, because I'm a victim of domestic violence. My daughter is a victim of child abuse by a steward in our house. So from what is happening to me, I can imagine what other poor Nigerians are going through, because it could have been anybody, but how many of us can speak of that this has happened to us?
Apart from domestic violence, politically there's violence against women. Number one, if you look at the political party structure, they reserve just one position for us, women leader. But we have a lot of competent people who are members of board of trustees, but you can't give them secretary. You can't ask them to, they vie to be chairman, they will laugh over it. That's violence. Then when it comes to the proper electioneering campaigns and all that, they'll hardly give you a chance. They'll just, let them follow us. They'll give you the position where you gather women to do Ashebi uniforms for them and all that.
Looking at where we are now, I'll not say it's time to say we have done it all, but I'll say that the struggle is yielding a lot of fruits. From when the Northern woman started voting in 1979 till now, you'll find that a lot has really been achieved. The stereotypes are gradually eroding.
Violence against persons in Nigeria is punishable, especially under the VAP Acts, by 12 to 20 years imprisonment without any option of fine for rape cases.
The act at the moment is the only act that prohibits all forms of violence against persons, both in private and public life.
However, critics say a lot more could be achieved by paying attention to policies that promote gender parity, empowerment of women, and ending of major conflicts for socio-economic stability of the society to take place.
There is this program that the Federal Ministry for Women Affairs, specifically for women, where women at all levels to access funds ranging from 10,000 up to 100,000 with no collateral.
There's also the Future Assured initiative of the wife of the president, able to touch on the lives of the average Nigerian woman, especially the internally displaced persons.
So, as the world focuses attention on eliminating violence against women, questions begging for answers include how enabling is the environment in advancing women's development? How much impact are gender champions making in closing gaps? And how true are speculations that women are the architect of their problems? Talati Ezerike, NTA News.
Right. That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me start by introducing our guest to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Dr. Otive Abuja, who is a member, UN Secretary General's Network of Men Leaders to Eradicate Violence Against Women. Dr. Abuja, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Siri.
We're also joined tonight by A.B. Austin Ogionwo, the second National Vice President of FIDA. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Let me also welcome to this program Ajaratu Fatu Ndiaye, UN Women Acting Country Representative to Nigeria. Thanks for being here. And we're also joined tonight by Ifeoma Iheanacho, who's a gender rights activist. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. As usual, we acquaint you with the process. At the appropriate time on this program, you can get to be part of the discussion. The various platforms will be on your screen. We advise you to take advantage of them. For those who will be calling in at the appropriate time, do us a favor. When you do get through on the phone lines, just turn down the volume. Just turn it down a bit of your TV. That way we'll avoid the hurlback. And let me just say that when your call gets through, your name will appear on screen. Once you see your name on screen, it tells you that your call has been passed through. So we encourage you to go straight to the point when you see that. It means you can now ask your question or make a comment. We advise that you keep it brief so that others can get on the platform. And we also encourage you not to bother about spending time on greetings. Just go straight to the point and ask a question and make a comment. So once again, welcome to tonight's Tuesday Live. And we will start from the very beginning. Yes, we've had a background report trying to define what constitutes violence against women. But let's hear it. We can't hear it enough. Can't get it too many times. So let's turn to Dr. Abuja and look at violence against women in its different ramifications.
Yeah, thank you very much. Violence against women is simply put any violence directed against women simply because they are women. And there are many dimensions of it. It could be physical violence, including beating, flogging, battery, and so on. It could be sexual violence, which includes rape, incest, and sexual harassment. It could be psychological violence, which includes verbal abuse, and all kinds of intimidation. It can also be socioeconomic violence, which includes deprivation of economic means of livelihood. So violence against women is very, very vast. It's simply violence directed against women simply because they are women. So when insurgents come to Chibok and they leave against women.
Right, so we've seen all of this happening in society. But let's come to A.B. Austin Ogiomo. From your perspective, how pervasive is this in society?
Thank you for that question. This violence against women is a very serious matter, more especially in the area of economic violence. I want to come into the microfinance sector where the CBN or other financial agencies will come up with policies that women should be given economic empowerment, financial empowerment up to 30% in most of these intervention funds. But when the monies are being released and they go down to the grassroots, you find out that it's all men affairs. You don't see women being given these monies, which is economic violence. And we are not accepting it. For instance, government will come up with policies and will make pronouncements. But when you get there, you find out that the nominations, those who are making the nominations for the beneficiaries, never includes women. And that is very, very bad. And we are not going to accept it. Because when you talk of violence, if you are empowered financially, you can go to anywhere to pursue your rights. But if you are not empowered financially, even if you have to pursue in the court or whatever litigation or whatever, you can't do it. So we are saying that empowerment should be given to women. Anything other than that is a violence against women in the economic sector.
All right, thank you very much. We'll come to many of those issues, but let's go to Ajaratu Fatundiaye. Your perspective on the issue at stake tonight.
Thank you for your question. Beyond the celebration of International Day for the Elimination of Violence, we are within the 16 days activism against gender-based violence. And the 16 days activism is a bridge between 25th November, which is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence, 1st of December, which is World AIDS Day, and 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day. So this symbol shows that there is a strong link between violence against women, HIV/AIDS, and also violation of human rights. In the introduction, you clearly say that UN Secretary General states that violence against women is one of the most brutal violations of women's rights, and that's why also it has beyond this aspect of right to get the attention of all government because of the economic costs that our societies cannot afford. Because violence against women has psychological costs, economic costs, because you have to address the psychological aspect and the health aspect, and sometimes it even leads to death, which can be a huge cost in a society where it is women who mainly takes care of children and the families. So the aspect also of empowerment is critical, because if you look at closely the approach of our states, mostly empowerment of women is not central to this approach. And it is just a social approach where we are trying to address issues of access to services, fighting violence, and empowering women in terms of their representation in decision-making in census, because Nigeria is really far behind many countries in the world, and also empowering them economically can have a much more positive impact than some of the strategies that are being used to address violence against women.
All right.
And girls.
Thank you very much. Well, Ifeoma Iheanacho, yes, you're here. You're a rights activist. You're also a lawyer. Let's hear you.
Oh, well, just like they rightly said, this violence against women has taken a very disturbing trend, especially at this time and age. Sometime last 2 years, we could, very boldly say that we thought that we were getting somewhere. But these days, no day passes without you getting at least 10 complaints every day in the office, either on battery or forceful ejection or ostracization of a woman simply because she renovated her late husband's house. And so to them, the traditional belief is that that is an abomination for a woman to renovate a house. A mere the widow had to run down to Abuja. She was ostracized from her community, and she had to run down here with her little girl. So, every day it keeps rising. We thought that we are getting somewhere, but these days, I don't know. I think it calls for immediate action. Immediate action, and then maybe draw out work plan. Is not enough to maybe we've passed the law, yes, we have VAP Act, but is it being implemented? How many offenders have been convicted under the VAP Act? I think I'll have to rest it here for now.
All right, so what you're suggesting is that, unfortunately, instead of cases of violence against women, instead of those cases to be reducing, we're witnessing an increase.
We have a rising, the rate is there's an increased rate of violence against women in this country right now. Formerly, if we were having like about 2 cases per day, I tell you that before you leave the office every day, at least I can testify to that, you will have about 10 people coming to the office a day. Is either case of battery or that of sexual violence or that of forceful ejection or that of ostracization. And all these anachronistic customs and all these obnoxious beliefs and all these religious bigotry is just so vast. So I don't know, we should just, I think it's time that everybody comes together and then all hands will be on deck and then we draw a kind of work, have a kind of a framework on how to go about this. It's not just about passing the VAP Act, but making sure that it's not just practicable on paper.
All right. Well, Dr. Guzo, Ifeoma has raised so many issues, but one that immediately captures my attention is the question of religious beliefs as it affects women and girls. And we know that this society is steeped in culture. You have all kinds of cultural taboos, all kinds of traditional practices, which, of course, hardly give women a voice.
Yeah, that's it's a reality. It's a huge challenge. Culture, tradition, and belief. We are socialized into a patriarchal society that, privileges men over women. In fact, it starts from the day the child is born. In many cultures, the naming ceremony of a baby boy is different from that of a baby girl. And the way the husband, the in-laws treat a woman who delivered a baby boy is different from the way a baby girl is treated. And it goes to the house. During socialization, we live in a very violent world today, which needs some form of assertiveness to be able to perform in today's modern world. But what you see is that the girl child is socialized to be submissive and timid, while the boy child is socialized to be aggressive and assertive. So a boy child jumps on the table and is hailed. A girl child jumps on the table and says, "Come down from the table, don't you know you are a girl?" So the socialization process, itself puts the girl child in a disadvantageous position. There are several kinds of culture, obnoxious cultures, you know, taboos. In many places, there is a belief, there's a belief that if a woman is not circumcised, you know, and gets pregnant during delivery, as soon as the head touches the clitoris, the child will die. But we know that is just a myth, which is not true, but is believed and is passed on from one generation to another. There is a belief that if a pregnant woman eats egg, they will give birth to a child who is a thief. I wonder whether all these thieves, you know, that we have around. You know, so there are a lot of culture, traditional practices. When your husband dies, they wash the body, that you have to drink it to show that you are not the one who killed. And, you know, shave your hair, you are not expected to take bath, and all kinds of traditional beliefs that are injurious to women. And when you come to religion, I think for religion, the basic thing is misinterpretation of religion. Because for the two major religions in Nigeria, whether Islam and Christianity, there are a lot of ways that they protect the rights of women. But there is a patriarchal interpretation. Let me give example with a Christian religion. You will notice that if you go to any marriage ceremony, you know, the major preaching from the priest is always from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22. Wives, be submissive to your husband. But if you just go up a little bit, you see that Ephesians 5:21 say, submit to one another in the fear of the Lord. But that is not talked about. So you see a misinterpretation of religion to suit the patriarchal nature of society. And I think that the real thing is really that today people have recognized all over the world that if you want to get the best out of society, you cannot consign 50% of the population to insignificance or to violence, because you are destroying society. What we've seen across the world is that any society that gives premium to women, which protects the rights of women, are at the top of the Human Development Index. That's why you see that the Scandinavian countries, you know, are always on top. Norway, Sweden, even more than the other superpowers in terms of the Human Development Index, whether you talk about health, education, quality of life, or well-being. But I think the challenge that we have in most societies, including Nigeria, is that we are living below the level of knowledge and practice in society. You know, for instance, we all recognize the role of women, the role women can play. Every society is clear that when women play positive roles in society, development is faster. But a country like Nigeria is way, way back other countries. In fact, if you take, for instance, the issue of political participation, you know, women started voting, as said during the intro, in Nigeria in 1979. That's the first time all women in Nigeria voted in an election. But men started voting since 1923. After the Clifford Constitution was made in 1922, the first election was 1923, and men were the only ones who voted. Even at that time, for you to vote is not ordinary man. You must be a man of means who can show from your tax clearance that you earn at least £100 a year. And in 1946, by the Richards Constitution, the property qualification was reduced to 50. But 1951, Macpherson Constitution, every man, both rich and poor, were allowed to vote. But women were not allowed to vote until 1979. So you can see the discrimination against women. There is no wonder why Nigeria is where it is today. Because if you look at the African average, for instance, in terms of participation in parliament, it's about 20%. But Nigeria, you have about 6% of parliamentarians, which is so low. There are African countries like Rwanda, which is more than even 50%. South Africa, you know, and South Africa, Uganda, they are more than 30%. So it's a huge challenge in Nigeria. And if we really need to accelerate the development of this country, we must not only eliminate violence against women, we must prioritize women issues in all sectors of life.
Oh well, so much to say about that in terms of traditional and other cultural practices. But then, it would seem that this has not been a case of people not been aware. So what has been the major stumbling block to bringing, including women, in mainstream activities in society?
Concerning that, I want to cite an example that when traditional practices hinders on people's rights and the community, the immediate family does not speak out about it, it goes nowhere. Two, even when the immediate family or whosoever takes it up, the society looks at it as if it's a normal thing. It's a normal thing. It's been happening. It's not just today that it has happened, so we should just bear it. When I was doing my project in the University of Science and Technology, in the Faculty of Law, when they say choose your topic for project, I decided to write on female circumcision as a violation of human rights. And so a lecturer was telling me, why would you write on that? Because he does not believe that that violation is something that is so significant, that is something too important. It's a normal thing that community, society have come to accept. And so it's not an important issue, but I insisted that is what I want to write on, and I wrote on it. Now, apart from that, we took advocacy campaign to some chiefs that are really, communities that are really involved in this violation of genital mutilation. And when we got there, to our surprise, after doing the advocacy, it is our fellow women that were coming telling us that, see, this thing you people have come to talk about in this place is not going to give us a good face, because if we don't circumcise our girl child and the child gets married and maybe dies, they will go and bury that diseased person in a bad place. We ask the question, where is a bad place? Because a dead person is gone, and we are all going to the ground 6 feet below. So which area in your community is a bad ground, and which one is a good soil? So we, the women too, are accepting those cultures, those traditions that they have placed against us. So by talking, we have to make frantic efforts, we the women folk, to say all those cultural practices that are against our rights should be abolished.
You know, in a situation like this, Ajarat, would you say that women are so intimidated that they cannot stand their grounds on issues like this?
I think there's more than intimidated. During the introduction, I heard somebody saying that women are the architecture of their own problems. It's just ignoring the power of patriarchy in our societies. And when we're talking about patriarchy, we're talking about centuries of patriarchy system where women have been completely excluded from public life and decision making. Today, if we are saying that women should be aware of, the bad nature of these practices and can by themselves just decide to stop it, it's just ignoring the power of cultural belief and also stereotype that we have in our society. Like these women are saying, even if they decide to do it, if there is a bad consequence, it's going to be on them. We have to be clear that we have to move together on this one. Men and women, we all need to transform our way of thinking and of doing things. So one of the interveners said that we have been socialized. And this socialization has taken centuries. And usually when you ask people, when have you been aware of being a girl or a boy in your society, it can go back as far as when they were 2 years old. And when you ask them, what did you think about it? They will answer you, we just think so that it was normal, we have to. And this construction has been there for so long that the deconstruction process won't be easy. But we all need to be aware of it first as women and men in our societies, and be aware also of the fact that we need to go through our deconstruction process and to rebuild things in a way that we can promote gender equality in our society. It's just too easy to tell women, oh, you can change things, women, you are your own enemies, etc. It does not work this way at all.
Yes, because so it's so easy for many men to toe that line and say, oh, well, the thing is, it's women who are the architects of their own troubles. I mean, and they'll tell you, no, if you put up a woman, it's fellow women who are going to pull her down. Because, for instance, even when you go to traditional practices, some, you initially talked about some widowhood practices. Yeah. You would notice that it is women who enforce those practices that, are harmful to other women. So what's the problem here?
I think the problem is ignorance and illiteracy. And as such, sensitization is key. And education is very important. Because they've been inducted into this primitive belief that you must do this. That was how our forefathers did it. And if you should violate this particular belief, you're gone, your whole family will be wiped away. And so they follow it so sheepishly. Otherwise, I do not understand how a woman, a reasonable woman or group of women would leave their husband's houses and then come to another woman's compound in the morning, ask her to pack her things or even help her pack out her things and eject her out of her husband's house. And then the traditional ruler will now pronounce that they've ostracized the woman, that she should leave the community, that they banish her, and she has no right to stay simply because she was trying to renovate a 1968 or is it 1958 building that was almost caving in. That the health inspectors even came and said, no, this is not a fit place for human beings to live. And then again, we keep talking about violence against women, violence against women. Yes, agreed. We probably have women violence against women. Because you will see a sister-in-law that will be in her husband's house and come to another sister-in-law. Probably the brother is marrying, the woman, and then will come and say, if you do not withdraw this case of rape from the court, your marriage is ended with my brother. if you don't go and withdraw that case from the court, the case is ongoing. If you don't withdraw it from the court, you will leave my brother's house. And true to her words, the woman has left the husband's house because she refused to withdraw a report, that she made to the police, and eventually the matter went to court. So what do you call that? Is that not women violence against women? So it's not as if that the women are the architects of their own problems. No. But even the men, it's just all encompassing.
Right. Let's dwell a little bit on the issue of rape, and let me come to the second national vice president of FIDA here. Is it that NCWS? Right. Is it that the laws are inadequate to deal with the issue of rape? Because it's been reported there are some areas in Nigeria today that are so, cases of rape are so rampant, and that people just get away, the culprits just get away with a slap on the wrist, so to speak.
Yes, the laws are adequate, though they need some amendments. But then, when it comes to enforcement, you find out that most of the persons highly placed in these law enforcement agencies never want those enforcements to go on. You can see that a person will report a matter of rape, and I don't want to mention names, but some responsible and honorable members that were involved in issues of rape, matters were reported and followed up. But when it came to a level, you find out that the men tried to trivialize the whole issue, and the enforcement never came to friction. What I'm saying is that because of this issue of the world is a man affair, so if a girl child is raped and is taken to the law enforcement agency, it does not matter anything to them. Okay, when it comes to the court, you have some points, some facts to prove. We don't have the instrument or whatever that in the rural areas that can take some kind of tests that are required immediately when such things happen, as an evidence. So by the time that person will be transported from the rural areas to the urban area to be tested, and in course of collecting evidence for the prosecution or whatever, you find out that the enforcement is aborted. And then this pressure of no, because something happened to me recently. Armed robbers came to my house and robbed, wounded me, raped a girl that was in my house. And when we got to the hospital, I found out that even the medical personnel were saying, please, madam, don't mention this thing anywhere. I said, why? I am going to find out, though we did not know those persons that came into that place to perpetrate that evil, but we are going to investigate. And in the investigation, you must talk about this issue. And they said no. One, for psychological reason. Two, for discrimination. And all these things are things that hinders the enforcement of rape cases. Though we have not known, but we are still investigating the matter. Now, there are some cases where the people who perpetrate those evils are known. Maybe a father to a daughter, an uncle to a girl that is staying with the uncle, or a gate man, that is security person to. But what happened? At the end of the day, you don't get conviction because of one or two reasons. So those are the issues we are advocating, like FIDA, like National Council of Women's Society, other organizations are saying that we should put more effort irrespective of all these hindrances here and there. One day you will find that we thank God for laws that are coming up, 21 years imprisonment. These are, as time goes on, you find out that the issues of rape will be properly enforced.
Dr. Abuja, I think it's been said that in the issue of rape, that we still don't get a large number of the reports because the fear of stigmatization determines that families just keep quiet. There's a culture of silence, and no one, they tell you it's not good to expose these cases because in future a girl, a woman who has been raped might find it difficult to get a husband.
Yep, those prejudices are there, those issues are there, and that is why the number of rape cases is not as much as you could have seen it. But I think that things are changing. There has been a debate whether there is increase in incidences of violence against women, or what we are witnessing is increased rapportage. But there are statistics show that, for instance, all over the world, the issue of violence against women is a huge challenge. Statistics indicate that 1 out of every 5 women have experienced one form of violence, especially physical and sexual violence. In Nigeria, 1 out of every 3 have experienced violence. And, you know, but I think that things are changing. The challenge is that things are changing, and that's one of the huge challenges we're having in Nigeria. Things are changing, but people are not seeing the change. They still want to live in the old Stone Age. And the argument that people make blaming women is what I call blaming the victim. The argument that women are the architects of their own problem hold no water at all. It is just a way of blaming the victim, because what we see, Siri, is that when 2 men are fighting for a position, the society is normal. But when 2 women are fighting for a position, then women are pulling each other down. A man will kill another man to take his position. It's normal. A woman is struggling to take a position from another woman, then women cannot work together. It's stereotyping. It's not correct. In society, people always struggle. Human beings struggle. And those issues, let's take for instance some traditional practices in the East, where the women are the ones who enforce it. You can't blame them. That is the role that society has given to them. If women does not practice that role, they will not have their place in the traditional institution. So we must understand that it is patriarchy and socialization of women that, you know, have given those roles. So if you begin to blame women, you are just blaming the victim. And like I said earlier, you know, I think Madam talked about deconstruction that needs to take place. And it takes time. And I want to look at it from two dimensions. First is that the deconstruction is already taking place. Because there is a study that was carried out recently by C4C, Coalitions for Change. And it showed that this study was on what does it take to be a man in Nigeria. And it showed that things are changing. The man in a traditional patriarchal society is the breadwinner. But many men today can no longer provide the bread. And those men who are not able to change their perception and orientation and go into partnership with their wife to co-provide the bread, many of them are having emotional breakdown. They are having hypertension. And that is why you see that, generally speaking, men are dying quicker than women. So the deconstruction is already taking place. And people need to understand that the world is changing. Any decent family today will know that when the man and the woman combine together to take decision, they will take a better quality decision, because two or more heads are better than one if they are not crazy.
All right, the lines are open already. We have a first caller calling in from Abuja here. We just take that call and introduce yourself quickly and just go ahead with a question or comment. Hello.
Good evening, sir. Yes, this is Chukwu Emezie speaking.
Hello.
Yes, my contribution is this, sir. It will not convince an everyday mind to say that violence against women is okay. It's bad. But sometimes have a look of the women line up before you and have a look of their dressing. Why then wear trouser or show your tummy or show your breast? Sometimes they contributed to their trouble. And I quote, I have once in Wuse too, and what a young lady of 30 years wear is a slap to even the federal government of this country, because she deserves to be arrested. She's subduing others. She's almost naked. Eventually she faced such a challenges. Whom do you blame? And you see a woman who was there to her daughter, say you look, talk away where, or take away in which garden? And of course, let me revise that to the culture, because I hear say contributed to the culture. I wonder why the husband of the woman will die, and she prepared to go market her the same day. And when she come back, you expected clapping hands to her. Is a taboo even in custom of this nation? You need to mourn your husband. And sometimes the behavior of a woman gives birth to the slap by the community. When your husband is alive, you didn't associate with their brothers, all of them become a thief or a wicked one to you. And when the man give up, to whom do you rely in the family? A tree can make a forest. I use my mom in question because of the way she dressed modest, make other people say, good morning, ma. Good morning, madam. But what is happening in our dressing today? Can any one of them go and shake their father, say, Father, good morning, with their hands? But it's happening today. What a respect. No country respects women like this country. But the behaviors and manners of our women make the integrity come low. We are not women violent, but their attitude It's a taboo. They should change it and look ahead of men to upgrade the integrity.
Okay.
In 1978-79 election, when the women started voting, we are in civilized world, things are changing. We can't remain in that sphere one till eternity. And I want to tell you, with the method they are going today, restoring the integrity of women, they can be president tomorrow. It's not a magic. But let them come home, rebrand themselves, behave as a woman, the way men are behaving as a man. And that's why today, men retain integrity as if women are following them. No. There's some errors, and I quote by Abuja, I quote by IBB in question. Whom you said something difficult from IBB, he refused. But the wife in question asked, look at what I leaked from Bababa, he refused. He said, okay, go, tomorrow come. Because she's an obedient woman. Within the night, they do a meeting on your behalf. And before tomorrow, you get it easy. My people say, and let me round up, that a behavior of a good woman seems that if you use drugs or medicine or charm to hold the husband, let them change and see what God will do to them. Amen, bless them.
All right, thank you very much, Chukwuemeze. Now, there are some issues here that have been raised that I really think we ought to dwell on. It would seem to me that the last caller dwelt on two particular issues which I want to talk about. While not trying to promote indecent dressing, is it a justification for a woman to be raped or attacked because she's dressed in a way someone thinks is indecent? Does that justify rape?
It does not justify rape.
Well, you know, Cyril, before cloth was discovered, people were going almost naked, wearing skin, animal skin, and leaves. You know, there's no justification whatsoever. In fact, in some parts of the world today, people almost go naked. In the Koma Hills, they were going almost naked. He talked about it. Man died and went to market that same day. That is, in my 50-something years of existence, that is abnormal for anybody in Nigeria. When your relation dies, you know, there is always that is unusual. That cannot be used as a case study. I mean, as if it's a generalized case. If anything like that happened, it's unusual. And even then, it cannot be used because the woman is a human being. What is applicable to the man should be applicable to the woman. And when people, and I think the point we have been making in the panel since, is that, look, it's not a question of men versus women. It's a question that the socialization of society has produced what we have seen today. And the level of knowledge and practice today indicates that we need to change. People who are saying women should rebrand themselves, it's not a question of women rebranding themselves. It's a question of society rebranding itself. There are many behavior that patriarchy has given to men, which is harmful to men. Let me give an instance. Men are seen to be masculine, to, you know, be aggressive, to be adventurous, so they can go and have sex. And even members of the family do not see anything wrong with it. They protect the girl child, but the boy child can go and have sex. And, you know, they go to very many risky behavior and have sexually transmitted diseases and HIV/AIDS. So what I'm trying to say is that both men and women need to have some form of reconstruction. We need to redefine what does it mean to be a man and what does it mean to be a woman in the 21st century. And I think that is why the UN Secretary General set up the network of men leaders to eradicate violence against women, that men and boys have roles to play. In fact, I've argued that if you look at the challenge of violence against women over the years and the discrimination of, against women, one of the missing link is the role that men and boys are supposed to play. And we've seen examples. I've been driving along the road. I saw that one woman and one man, they hit themselves, and the man was almost, going physical. And I just stopped my car. Thank God he helped me with height. I just appeared at the scene and said, what is the problem? And the violence stopped. So men need to take more role, in stopping violence against women, in reconstructing society, in producing the new man and new woman of the 21st century.
All right, we'll even come to some aspect of traffic and the other issue raised there. But let's quickly take this caller who's been waiting. Lucky calling in from Port Harcourt. We'll keep in mind those issues. Hello, Lucky.
Good morning, Cyril. Good morning, beautiful girls there. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. My contribution concerning this domestic violence against women is this. Like the last caller said, the problem of women, honestly speaking, to be honest, is from women. If the woman should know that originally we were the same, Adam and Eve, until the woman did what she did, and God was angry. He placed the woman under judgment. So women should take note that we don't need to fight. You don't need to fight us because it is the will of God. And now, a good man knows that he and his wife are the same, but our roles differ. Okay, when the case of homosexual came in, I was expecting the women to rise up to this challenge. They were just laughing, looking at it as strange things. Men were marrying men, and we don't have enough men for women to marry. The women in Nigeria never protested. None of them. I watched the streets from the US to throughout the Europe, down to Africa, no protest until women started marrying themselves, men started marrying. So, and I went to the prison. I want to give a very, very short contribution. I went to the prison. I saw a lot of young men in the prison. I also saw women in the prison. We have women at the helm of affairs. Let's take the banking sector, for example. I want to combine this. The banking sector, a woman will be in charge of business, the business manager. And yet, the same bank will tell the woman, the young graduate, that you must meet up so amount of money for you to be promoted. And lastly, I want to put it this way, that if our laws, for example, if our laws can be upgraded to protect the woman in a very big way, I would have suggested this way. Number one, a young girl in secondary school, the law should be that if a young man, because young boys will, let me just pregnant her, I will punish her by pregnancy her. But if the law is there that if you pregnant a young girl, you too will not go to school because you are saying that girl from going to university or yes. So if the law says the young man should not. The young man will. If the law holds that young man that he will also go to university, he will face the law. He will go to prison. I think this issue will be minimized in terms of that the younger side. I just want to end my contribution there. I think I'm getting confused.
Right. You are really confused. I guess so. Thank you very much, Lucky. But there are one or two things. We're getting confused. One or two issues you raised, which we'll be looking at in the next segment of this program. We're not going to forget the earlier issues raised, and of course, we'll keep in mind also the question of road traffic behaviors, because I can say I've seen situations in traffic where a man is driving along, a woman is driving along, and the moment she goes past him, the man loses it and accelerates and says, no, a woman cannot go faster than me. And, you know, but we'll take a break. When we return, we'll look at these issues. Stay with us on Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. We're talking about violence against women tonight. Before the break, we had one of our callers who insisted that women were the cause of their own problems. He gave an example and insisted that girls and women dress in such ways that make them to be victims of attack. We'll come to Ajaratu Fatu Ndiaye, who has a comment on that.
Yes, because, we hear also that very little girls who are 2 years, 3 years old are raped. Women who wear hijabs are raped. So I think that the issue goes beyond the way people dress. And like one of the speakers said earlier on, there's evolution in the way we are seeing our body, especially women's body. For a long time in our African tradition, breast was nothing but, something that was used to breastfeed. But now with our exactly now with our exposure to the Western world more and more, we are perceiving something else around this breast. So it means that, like we keep saying it, social construction is critical. you know, men are behaving the ways they're behaving when it comes to rape, etc., including sometimes, unfortunately, some of our judges who are really a product of our society. I'm not Nigerian, but unfortunately, this is not peculiar to Nigeria, where women are accused after being raped of, you know, being the instigator of the rape. And also, sometimes evidence is so difficult to collect in an environment where there is not a strong will to fight this kind of behavior. So, because it goes from, you know, evidence on health, the police reporting, etc., and it is even harder to prove rape when it happened with, you know, the youngest. Doesn't matter how strong sometimes also the evidence is, we just realize that it's always questioned. And even the fact that now more and more the condemnation when it comes to rape, you know, can be very stiff, makes it more difficult, more and more very difficult, because some judge will tell you that to get this kind of level of condemnation, we just need like things to be proved beyond any doubt.
All right, we'll take this call from Ondo. It says Uchenna is calling in from Ondo. Hello, Uchenna.
Hello.
Hello, Uchenna.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, Uchenna, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, sir. Please, I want to speak on the issue of rape.
Yes.
So you need, at times, when they talk of rape, you know, when an overage man go and meet underage girl, not rape. It is not by force that is stating that it is not the actual age when it comes to rape. On the other hand, there is some women are used to rape men in that case. So you see underage woman, we have them contact with a younger man, younger boy, and underage boy. So in that case now, the woman there is committing the rape issue, and the man is also committing the offense. So in this rape issue, I saw it and I understood it as a general issue. Not only women that they used to rape, they use women also used to rape men. So are you taking me? So but now in that case, for some at times and those girls, those little girls, according to what they used to hear. At times, according to what they used to hear, even in public places, and their parents are seeing it, and they don't have to talk, as one of our scholars said so. So it is them that are contributing in that issue of rape. And when they meet them, it seems it's even sweeter and better than the one that is used to do it with them. So they are the one that causes it.
All right.
Younger, and even from African states,
okay. Uchenna, if you can hear me, one of our guests has raised this question. Perhaps you can answer it. If it's the girl who dressed indecently that caused it, that's why she was raped, maybe you have a reason why an adult would rape a baby, a 6-month-old baby. So how did the 6-month-old baby dress? Would you have an answer to that? Oh, well. Probably he's gone, but I am hoping that Uchenna is still listening to this conversation, and he might want to call in later on to explain to us how a baby dresses so as to entice a man to rape that baby. But let's come to you, Ifoma. And we had a lucky calling to say that it's the will of God, so we should just fold our arms and accept that violence against women, discrimination against women is the will of God. Is it?
It sounds funny. But there's no way the God we know is a God of peace and is not a God of violence. There's no religion that supports violence. You know, be it religion supports violence. I think it's a man made something. This discrimination is something that, the society brought up, on its own. It's been there. It's become a norm. It's become a convention. It's become conventional for women to be discriminated against. And we cannot accept that. And even globally, they've gone past that. But in Nigeria, I don't know. I know that we have the bills, we have the laws, but I don't think it's the will of God. It is not the will of God. It is how I think we should begin to distinguish between the woman and human attitudes and between the man and human attitudes. Because you see a man just like you are. Look at my colleague here, my fellow panelists, talking, on issues that make for elimination of violence against women. And another person sitting down at home is saying, no, it is the will of God. It doesn't make sense. So there's no way it is the will of God. If it were to be the will of God, you will not have a dissenting voice. You will not have people saying this is wrong. How can it be the will of God for a 68-year-old man to go and rape a 6-month-old baby? Or how can it be the will of God for a steward who is 36 years old? I am telling you, if a matter I'm handling, I'm not telling you here, see, to go and rape a baby that he witnessed when they gave back to that baby, a 4-year-old baby. Or tell me, how can it be the will of God for a 7-year-old boy to be mocked and killed simply because he took Gary because he was hungry? Or just better still, you can explain to me, maybe it is the will of God for a 6-year-old girl, to be raped by a 25-year-old man. I don't see what is the will of God there. It is just somebody that has a deviant behavior.
All right. We have another caller from Lagos. Leave us the name. Perhaps you would introduce yourself quickly. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
I'm concerned the first caller from Abuja. So I like what the man said, but you have a question for him. That said that from beginning there's people that see going naked, but you cannot say it like that. Because if you go to all these hotels, you can see a naked woman. The reason why they are coming out naked for seducement. But then if a man travel like this and he can get a hotel to sleep, from there he can get a woman that is naked. That's all these things, all these women raping or cannot just conclude the matter. There are person that telling you, he said that it doesn't mean that from the beginning that we are just wearing clothes. If you want to stop all these women harassing, can find the what causes the problem from the root. That's my explanation.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It was extremely difficult to actually get what he was saying there.
I think it should be more humane, when we start doing the right thing. And there is no justification for any man or any young man. Being a young man or old man, there's no justification for you to rape a girl simply because of the way she is dressed. Now, let's assume you believe that girl is indecently dressed. You that has a sane mind, does it behove on you to go and jump on the girl and rape the girl because of the way she is dressed? It doesn't make any sense. I don't see any more. It is inhuman and it is not right. We should begin to do the right thing. You say it is the will of, how can it be the will of God? The same Bible or the same Quran said a husband should love the wife. Okay. And when you love your wife, she becomes submissive naturally. I've seen a woman who says, my husband will not like this, so my husband, I don't want anything that will, I don't want you to do this, my husband will not like it. The husband has not complained, but because the man showed her love, she wants it to continue. She needs the peace in her home. There is no reasonable woman that would deliberately, indulge in things that will practically upset a man. Now, you said they are indecently dressed. What did you do? Is it to jump on her or to call her aside as a sister and say, please, next time, why don't you do this way? That is decency.
I think there is a point that we must make. First is that the panelists were not promoting decency. You know, people should be decently dressed. In fact, I think there is a law in the country against indecent exposure. Yeah. So I think that's not the issue. But the point is that even if when people are indecently dressed, it's not, it's amazing that in Nigeria, people at times want to copy things from abroad, but they copy the wrong ones. In abroad, the people, there are communities, nudist communities, where people go nude. Does it mean they go around raping each other? No. So people must, and I think we must make this point clear at this program, that to stop this matter, if people think that if they see anybody who is indecently dressed, they can rape the person, they will go to jail. Exactly. And we need to call on government that there is a law. For these men listening, arguing, making this kind of argument should know that there is a law against rape. That if you rape somebody, even if the person is indecently dressed, in your own calculation, you go to jail. And I think we need to use this opportunity to call on the law enforcement agencies to apply the law, because every human being should have self-control. Because, it's unthinkable that people will make justification for rape at this age that we are in. It is not justifiable under any condition. It's illegal, it's a criminal offense, and people who indulge in it, what we can do is to call on the law enforcement agencies and citizens to be vigilant. Those people are deviant. We should be able to, the way to deal with this issue is to look at law, look at policy and practice, and ensure that the law is enforced.
All right, we have another caller here. We'll return. We have another caller from Abuja. Emeze calling in from Abuja. Hello.
Yes, this is Chukwumeze.
Okay, Chukwumeze.
I'm interested in your discussion. I call you back.
Okay, right.
So, but I will correct an impression before you, sir.
Yes.
Your clients are talking on my credit for more than 5 minutes or 6 minutes. So it should a kind of minimized issue in terms of network, my credit. So what I want to contribute mainly on child abuse, 6 months and 7 years first. Yes. Because why I called back is if there's any contribution to correct that impression,
yes,
to close that gap.
So, very decently dressed too.
It's forbidden. I must be sincere. But sometimes,
that is forbidden.
Let me underline that it's a criminal. But some of them is ritual. Some of them is cult. I must be sincere to you. There is no a sensible human being who will say 7 years. What is open or vagina within the baby? Nothing. And that's why I say it's evil. Let me take one that too. So, 2 is this, sir. I called that purposely because of my learned career. I greet you very well. Okay. You sound like one of my best friend, comrade Chukse Hirim, once a chairman of Nigeria Union of Journalists. But let me go to the business of the day, sir.
All right.
You refer me back as of 1950s, 70s, 50s. Then is when my mom tied, we call it the banana leaf. But I want to tell you today, then is analog. We are in digital generation, sir. You want to tell me, that's what I want. Let's get this right today, if possible. And I will use the example of your sitting there. If any one of those my elder sisters and my sisters there. Bring one of their brothers. Let's discuss mature outside there. Because we are mature. You will control yourself and caution her. What are you doing? Are you out of your senses and take it back? Who cannot control themselves, sir?
They should go to jail.
They become together. When you deal with those who smoke in their hand, you behave in their hands. When you see anyone, I discussed with a fellow sister, she's a Muslim. She's my female friend, anyway. And I say her, why are your people covering prostitutes? You say, yes, but anyone you see have naked dressing is a Christian. Irrespective of the prostitution, they covered it. But have a look of my own sisters. They show it outside. That anyone you see have naked.
All right. Thank you, Chukwuemeze.
I think myself, irrespective, I'm still doubting.
Right. Thank you very much. I think there are so many other callers who would like to get on this platform, and the question still remains: is it justifiable? And I believe that you've answered that yourself and say it's not justifiable, whether a woman is naked or not. So we'll just let other people get on this platform. Thank you very much for calling in. And yes.
I just wanted to say that if you listen to the different callers, you know, women's body is central. You know, we talked about so many different sort of violence, but almost all our callers are talking about rape, etc., and also women's body, because you know our societies are just built around the control of women's body. Doesn't matter if it is with FGM, the way we dress, the way we talk, the way etc. So we will always go back to this social construction, and also the difference between the construction of manhood and womanhood in our society. Because for a long time, those who work on gender equality knows that we have been focused a lot on the construction of womanhood. So, but the construction now of masculinity, we call it construction of masculinity, now has become central to our approach. Why do men think like that about women? What happened in their socialization that they think that, okay, we have the right to treat women in this way, we have the right to take decision for women.
If a woman exposes their body, then I have the right to go and sleep with her.
Exactly. And this is also something that could help on the long run to adopt strategies, because all these things we are talking about, it's not just to talk about men and women, it is also to reflect on strategies.
Again, I might also ask Dr. Abuja, what is it that would make a man believe that a woman should not overtake him on the highway when they're driving? What kind of a mindset?
Is the socialization. Is the masculine socialization, you know, that a man is macho, you know, a woman is not equal to you in every respect, so including driving. So how can a woman overtake you? That is the mentality, which is a very harmful mentality. Because like somebody noted, there are women who are even physically stronger than men, you know. So, and speed, the speed of a vehicle, the way a person drives, is related in many ways to his temperament. There are temperaments that are regarded as speed demons. If you look at the Hippocrates classification of human into whether sanguine, melancholy, phlegmatic, or choleric. Cholerics are speed demons. When they enter the vehicle, whether a man or woman, does not matter, they just match the throttle. So people must understand that there are things are different, you know. So that people, and I think for men, even for their own sanity, you know, and quality of life, they need to realize that they cannot, you know, begin to show that macro image or behavior, because some of them is harmful. Because by the time you say, how can a woman speed more than me, and you then throttle, you will be over speeding and can lead to your own death. So I think that And I think this is where we want to emphasize that the point we are making is not men versus women. The point we are making is that society will be better when women and men are treated well. And to also know that from the scriptures, at least I know of the Christian religion, the Bible is very clear that male and female created Eden. And if you look through the scriptures, in fact, the Bible says that, you know, there is no Jew, there is no Gentile, there is no male, there is no female. Everyone is united in Jesus Christ. So people must understand that there can be a patriarchal interpretation. And, you know, many people take some of the words from the scripture. There's nowhere in the scripture, you know, apart from Proverbs chapter 31, which talks about the virtuous woman, where even cooking is reserved for women. There's none. Right. From Genesis to Revelation. People don't understand this thing. If you look at even taking care of children, you'll be shocked that there's only one verse in Ephesians chapter 6 where we says that men are responsible for upbringing of children. There's nowhere in the scripture that gives the upbringing of children to women. These are socially constructed and they are built by patriarchal arrangement of society. And we are saying that patriarchal arrangement is harmful to men, is harmful to women, is harmful to society. Society cannot develop in that way, and there is a need for a reconstruction of society and what it means to be a man and a woman in the 21st century.
All right, let's return to the phones. We have from Calabar a caller who's been Enokomamo, I believe. He's been on the line for quite a while. Thanks for staying on. Hello, go ahead. Is this still with us? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still with you. Hello?
Okay. All right,
Hello?
go ahead. Please introduce yourself correctly and go ahead. We can
Hello,
hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh my God. Can you hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay, please. Yeah, you guys have been talking things. Hmm? All right. Sometimes you will talk so that my credit is really burning. Huh? One thing I want to ask to find out from you, if the other side is not child abuse, okay? When a man pregnanted a woman, agreeing to marrying that lady. Oh.
We're listening to you. Go ahead.
And then she have that child, and he leaves that child. The lady now suffered alone for that child, and he's there not taking care of that child. Is that one not child abuse?
All right. Straightforward. And of course, our guest here will respond to that. Okay, thank you for calling in. Yes, I guess you heard.
Yes. I think if you had an agreement with a man to get married and eventually he impregnated you, and then the lady gives birth to a child, it behoves on the man to be responsible for the upkeep of the mother and the child, whether you're marrying the lady or not. One, because you have deprived that lady, you know, most times of her prime, you understand? You have taken most of her time, you have put her in a family where you have made her, so to say, a mother. she has an extra responsibility, and it is the sole responsibility of that man to take care of that woman and that child.
Right, let's now come to the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. And what are the sanctions for breaching this act?
Well, the sanctions in VAP Act, they're not far-fetched. And after the 14 years of struggle to get that law passed, it was eventually passed last year, and we are all the happy for it. The sanctions ranges from life imprisonment, when it has to do with rape cases, even to 14 years imprisonment, when not 20 years imprisonment when the offenders are less than 14 years of age, and then 12 years imprisonment when it has to do with a group of boys, like the case, a particular case that we're handling now. 2 boys from Duse Alaji Green and White Secondary School went ahead. The little girl, 14-year-old girl, wanted to go and ease herself. She got very close to the nearby bush to ease herself. The boys pounced on her and, took away her dignity. They raped her, and in the process, she got pregnant. In fact, this evening, their counsel just sent me a message that she has put to bed a bouncing baby boy, a 14-year-old girl. So in such a case, what happens? Now the girl was sent out of school, and the 2 boys who are even older than the girl, we are left to remain in that same school with that kind of attitude. They're not fit to live in a normal society. They should be sent to a rehabilitation center or a corrective center where they should be reorientated, you understand, to the real values of our present society. So these sanctions are what we are looking at. That was why when we talked about implementation, we have the laws, yes, but implementation is key. And another problem we are having is only operational within the FCT. And we are using this opportunity to call on the people at the state level, those in the local government, to make sure that they domesticate the VAP Act all over the 36 states of the Federation.
Okay, back to the phone lines. We have another caller from Abuja. Bahamas.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
What I want to say, whenever they say violence against women, people talk about rape and other things. But I discovered that women are deviating from their normal roles as being submissive to their husbands. And that is always what is causing problems when a husband can lay hands on the wife. Like my brother here quoted the scripture. I want you all to know that the scripture to ask the women to be submissive to their husbands. And that is, in whatever they do, they should be respectful to the men. But when a man is talking to the wife removes her tie and tie on her waist and ready for boxing. Then a man is full of ego. He will have to maybe fight back because of shame.
Okay, so, all right.
So, and again, I want to talk about culture. The woman there that was talking about Umada and the other person should know that even the Bible talks about culture. The tradition of Jews is what we are following.
Okay.
So I don't see any normal man start beating the wife when the wife is telling him, sorry, I'm sorry. But when you try to tell a man, beat me again, if you beat me again, you will see that is normally what brings problems between men and women. Yeah. Then when we come about rape, it is not the person that roughly dressed is being raped. But men draft their urge from what they see, either in video or those who are carelessly dressed. Then when cumulated urge explodes, they will be looking for where to eat their problems. So automatically dressing is what we have to address first. And the issue of indiscriminate video sex in Nigeria is causing us a problem too to us. So any woman that respects the husband will not be beaten. And any woman that respects the culture will not be attacked by Umuada. Right. So Umuada is always trying to help the police and help the law enforcement agents to keep part of the law.
Can I ask him a question? Can I ask him a question? Hello, sir. If your boss in the office does not respect you, will you beat him? Are you going, sir?
I guess, well, he
okay,
certainly...
But I think that we need to correct that quickly. First is that the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 5 verse 22, wives, submit to your husbands. But like I said earlier, in Ephesians chapter 5 verse 21, he says, submit one to another. And if you go from verse 23, he says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. How did he love the church? He gave his life for the church. So if you love your husbands, if husbands love their wives, they cannot beat them. So people should not be misquoting the scriptures to justify wife battery. No Christian should use ego as a basis for beating the wife. Because the Bible, enjoins us to be humble, to be like Jesus Christ. In Philippians chapter 2, he says, have the mind of Jesus, who, being with God, did not equate himself with God, but submitted himself. So people need to be humble. You cannot use the Bible to justify battery. The Bible says, submit one to another, and the Bible says, husbands, love your wives. If you love your wives and if you love yourself, you cannot beat yourself.
Well, it would seem that from most of the calls we have received so far, there is still a need to raise awareness. What have organizations, NGOs been doing in trying to raise awareness? Because it's evident from virtually all the calls we have received so far that a lot of people still think it's okay to promote these activities against women.
Yes, the NGOs are doing a lot in creating awareness concerning these issues, especially National Council of Women's Societies, Nigeria, FIDA, and other civil society groups. They are advocating doing capacity building. But then, what we observe is that this capacity building and advocacy is more on the urban areas. The rural areas that are perpetrating this evil, most of the NGOs could not reach those places. But for National Council of Women's Societies, it's spread out across the whole country. We try to do these programs at the local government to community levels. But that is not enough. More other NGOs have to go down to the grassroots, because talking about it on NTA is going a long way. But there are places that do not, as we are talking, they are not watching because there is no light. There is no facility for them to hear what we are talking. And the issue of finance to get to those places are also a problem. And so we think that the government should put in more effort in, helping these NGOs that are willing to go to the grassroots to carry out these advocacy programs. Thank you.
Okay. Back to the phone lines. There's a John Amos, I believe, that's the name, who's calling in from Abuja. Hello, John. Go ahead.
That one is not the problem. But a woman, she went out, she bought a nice man, starts suspecting her. You know, when we have a lot to tell ourselves truth. All of us we are being created as a one body. If women are not being important, from the ones that God created, when God created Adam, he knows the importance of the women. That is why he created Eve. He knows that a tree cannot make a forest. Let's be true. Bringing all this in, I have some people saying that it is God's way. Or they are going on half naked. That is why they are being raped or all these things. All these violence against women is out of hand. We need to change that and give women their rights. Women they are contributing. If we give a woman a chance in any organization, we can do that because for me, I want everybody to know the importance of women in different organizations because a woman, she's caring. When we step it to down level about the scripture, when scripture says, who are those that they pursue the step of Jesus Christ? They went there to see what is going there, to tell you how important. Out of the hundreds of men, if they gather them to say, who do you love more in some women? But we don't give them that liberty as a mother to showcase, to see that is why we are facing these careers that we are facing in this country. We judge because the one that will give them opportunity, the one that they don't believe us. So we work against that women they are nothing. Women they have their contribution. Women they are fighting money. Women they have the mind of sympathy. Wherever they condemn, we condemn them that they are easy. But they are good if we can give them a chance. So women they are listening. I am against of that. Totally against of violating the rights of the women. Totally against that. Let government put a strategy that will end all this chaos, all this menace in this country. I would like to have the contact with those either any organization that's working with the violation of women, so that and go to the rural, not the only Abuja here that we are. We can go down to the rural area and find out how women are being violated, they are being married and send them, sack them away because they are not progressing to know their rights. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amos. Thank you so much.
I wanted to add, in terms of strategy, that the strategy of the UN system is just to stop this culture of violence. Because violence brings different type of violence, and it will never end. Because our boys are seeing, older men behaving in a certain way, and they will just do the same thing, and violence will never end. So that's why in 2008, the Secretary General launched this campaign, Unite, to end violence against women and girls. And this year, the theme of the campaign is Orange the World. That's why I think women are in orange today. Right. And raise money to end violence against women.
I can see
because
the colors cut across.
Exactly.
Orange headgear. She actually has,
violence against women.
Okay, exactly. Right. And the issue of funding, the issue of funding she raised is very critical. That's why this year's campaign is really centered around raising money, from government, from also private sector organizations that are more and more contributing to this kind of approach to end violence, because it is costing a lot to our economies. Some studies have shown that the cost of violence against women means that our government should put more attention in ending this pandemic that is very serious across cities, and especially also in urban areas where women sometimes cannot even talk about the kind of violence they are going through.
There are also other inequalities when you talk about this, and sometimes in education as well. And you find that a fundamental right, girls, women are denied that in education.
You know, the one of education is really key, because education is one right that can make you to be able to enjoy other rights. And all over the world, there are huge challenges, gender disparities between boys and girls. Even though in education in Nigeria, it's a unique situation in the sense that in the north, for instance, the disparity against girls is so high, but in the southeast, there is some form of disparity against boys. But generally speaking, you see that throughout the country, the disparity against girls is higher, and for many reasons. First is economic. Whenever a family has two children, one boy, one girl, and they can pay for only one, the boy will be choosing against the girl. Second is cultural biases. People are still living in the old Stone Age, thinking that a girl will be married out and is for another family, which practice and our lived experience has disproved. There are many girl children who are more useful to their parents than boys, you know, but people still live in the old system of thinking. And also there is also the challenge of early marriage, which force girls out of school. And there are also the challenges of the condition of learning within the school. For instance, we'll find out that the mere fact that there is no toilet in the school can make menstruating girls not to go to school, you know. So, the learning outcome is now a huge challenge, the quality of education. Today, you see that people can go through. When I was growing up, you are in primary 6, you can't write letter, it will be a huge challenge. Because in the village, people will come to you to write letter in primary 6. But I've been in interview panel where people who claim results of 6 credits were just given piece of paper, say, write to us, how did you come to this interview hall? And one of them wrote, Kikbo Kati. Not one single English language. And he has 6 credits. So you see people going through school without learning outcome. So for many parents, it's, and you can see, you know, look at even the Chibok girls who were writing a school certificate and they were abducted. Interview them in English. They can't speak English. So all of this make people to say, why go to school? You don't learn anything from the school. You will get a job at the end of the... So why go to school? So there are many things that are responsible for the level of disparity that we have. And I've always said, and I think this is the key point, today we live in a world where there is huge amount of knowledge. So for every problem, for nearly every problem on earth, there is solution. For girl child education, there is a key things that needs to be done to address it. For inequality in society, there are key things need to be done to address it. For economic recession, there are key things that needs to be done to address it. For bad leadership that we have, there are key things that needs to be done to address it. For pervasive corruption in the country, there are key things that we need to be done to address it. The challenge we have is the leadership, the strategy, the will, and commitment to do the right thing.
Right, as we wind down, the best way to address these issues.
I think I don't want to go. My colleague has said everything.
All right.
But what I want to add to it is the welfare of teachers. Welfare of teachers will go a long way in helping this issue of education.
Right.
Teachers are just sitting down in their houses because salaries are not paid to them. I know of states and local governments where primary and secondary schools have not been paid, and so the teachers are also sitting down in their houses for several months. And just few weeks back, they were called to go back to school, just with a payment of maybe 1 or 2 months salary, maybe half or full. Then as they go in, because of the timetable they are working on, they set exam.
All right, so that
for
also contributes to the poor quality.
Yes.
So
why would you set exam for the school pupils that you have not taught anything? So those are some of the problems that.
All right, your closing comments, Ajaratu Ndiaye.
Yes, I think education is critical in this process, because it's an instrument that can help promote gender equality if we have the right approach. But sending also girls and boys to school and teaching them exactly what they would have been taught in a society that is promoting patriarchy won't help really have a positive impact in this process, because we really have some serious structural issues to address.
Thank you. And before my hand, I show your closing comments.
Well, I've always said that women is another level of humanity, and no nation moves forward.
Absolutely.
When you confine to the backbench half of your population, you can't move forward. Nobody forgets one leg behind and goes ahead. You can't even move forward. So what I'm saying is empowerment of women, gender parity is very critical to accelerating national growth and development. And aside that, we should equally talk to our law enforcement agents, because why we do not get convictions on most of these matters is because of compromised prosecution. It's just because of want of time. There are lots of things. Forced marriages, a lot of them. We've not even gone into them.
All right then. Okay. And yes, no one program, as I always say, can take care of all the issues. We'll have to leave it here at this time. And so we must say a thank you to our guests. Big thank you to Dr. Tive Buzo, member of the UN Secretary General's Network of Men Leaders to Eradicate Violence Against Women. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Siri.
And for A.B. Austin Ogyomo, who is second national vice president of WS and also a member of FIDA, that's the International Federation of Women Lawyers. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Let us also say a big thank you to Ajaratu Fatu Ndiaye, UN Women Acting Country Representative to Nigeria. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for giving us this
And to Ifeoma Ihena Cho, gender activist, lawyer. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Right. And also thank you for being part of this program. Next week we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.
Information, entertainment, the first breaking the news. We are Africa's largest network. Africa's largest network. Second to none. The first, the biggest, the best. Education, sports, authentic news, views. NTA. You can't beat the rich.
NTA language.
Jama'a masu kallon labaran NTA Hausa barkanmu da warhaka. Ni ne
Ekukale lode yin wise kudeya.
Igbo murum kachano.
Broadcasted in the language you understand better. Our programs. Transmitting on the Star Times platform 24 hours.
Àwọn onímọ̀ nípa ètò ẹ̀kọ́ lórílẹ̀‐èdè Nàìjíríà.
Hukumar tara kudaden haraji ta ƙasa.
Alanye na ọchịchị mba United Arab Emirates UAE.
The only channel that speaks your language.
Anyị ga-eweta akụkọ gbasara ọrịa ahụ nke wakporo obodo anyị.